everybody. We're excited to announce the launch of my new podcast, Leaders in AI and FinTech. Rare Executives podcast. We're sort of aimed at exploring the world of AI, Gen AI, and FinTech. So we aim to share valuable insights and industry trends and leadership strategies to inspire and inform our audience, who are mainly leaders in technology, business, and finance. So for our first podcast, we have a very special guest today, Jeff Mills, President of iMerit Technology Services. Hi, Jeff.
Maurice, how's it going, sir?
It's very good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm excited to be your first guest.
Marvelous. Look, Jeff, your journey and insights and the remarkable work that you do will provide immense value to our listeners. So would you mind starting by telling us a bit about iMerit and your role as president?
Sure, yeah. So I am the president of iMerit. iMerit is in the data solutions sector. We work with, we're a tech-enabled data solutions company that's working on the kind of forefront of AI, Gen AI. This stuff's been around for a long time, Maurice. People kind of feel like AI is this new sector, this new vertical. The reality is AI has been around, machine learning's been around, which is a subset of AI, pretty much my whole career. I started working at Yahoo back in 1998, and we were using a lot of machine learning even back in those days. So the reality is, we've been recommended, videos to watch, recommended products to buy, ads have targeted us, ads have been purchased, through different DSPs and things for years. All of that's really run on some sort of, machine learning system. So most of this stuff's not new. At iMerit, we're working a little bit more with the cutting edge companies. So, a lot of the self-driving car or ADAS verticals, a lot of the like smart agriculture that's happening, these kind of, drone delivery companies. We do a lot in the medical sector with MedAI specifically. So a lot of specialty AI areas. And then Gen AI has become a really big area for us where we're working with a lot of the big tech companies, kind of the, conversational LLMs, as well as just kind of your big, magnificent seven, largest kind of tech companies that are out there working on, everything from LLMs to computer vision models, pretty much soup to nuts.
Jeff, what inspired you then to pursue a career in technology and AI?
Yeah, I started again at Yahoo back in 1998. At the time, more people thought I worked for Yoo-hoo, the chocolate drink company, than for Yahoo, the internet company. I was in the first 400 or so employees, at the company, and I didn't know what really the internet even really meant yet, nor did most of the world. So, I kind of, I was born in the, basically grew up in the Silicon Valley, and got very lucky to kind of get introduced to the internet world early on. Now, what we found really early on in the journey at Yahoo was data meant everything, and it was the data that we were collecting and whatnot that became valuable. So I think I've always worked with some level of data, since again the early years. And we launched Yahoo Shopping, I want to say in like 99, 2000, probably closer to sometime in 99 actually. And we started doing recommendation engines and things like that pretty early on, and so I've been working in some form again of machine learning, really pretty early on in my career. And then that's just continued to grow into different levels over the years. So after Yahoo, I was part of Sidestep. I followed one of my mentors there, became the CEO, Rob Solomon, and that became Kayak, the travel company. We got bought by Kayak eventually. Again, Criteo is a big personalized retargeting company. That's all really machine learning based. You're talking about ads that are being created based on machine learning. You're talking about inventory that's being bought basically on machine learning. How much you should bid for that inventory is based on machine learning. All of that has really been rooted in an AI since the beginning. So I was lucky to be introduced to it early, understood the technology pretty well, and then just continued to kind of move that path forward as things have gone. And at iMerit, I think I've been really blessed because we're in the data services, business. So I'm working with all kinds of companies in AI. So I have a really exciting kind of view through this window into basically all types of models that are being created right now, primarily ones that are using, supervised models where they're looking for data sets to really train their algorithms. But I get to see it working for all kinds of the leading companies in the world. So I got to kind of really get a different view of kind of what's being created, why it's being created, what's working, what's not working, in the space. So it's been a lot of fun.
Jeff, what about leadership? I mean, you've been in leadership now for a number of years. I mean, could you share some key leadership lessons you've learned over the years?
Yeah, I guess I would say that, primarily I'm in the problem solving business. And, I solve problems first for prospects, and that's how they become clients. How do I retain clients? I continue to solve their problems. How do I build great teams? I find candidates. I figure out what their problems are. I solve their problems. How do I retain that talent? We have over a 90% retention rate here at iMerit. I continue to solve their problems. I think if you are in the problem-solving mindset, if you lead by acts of service, by default, you're already putting yourself in a pretty strong position. Just that by itself. Then from there, I say that iMerit has 2 feet planted firmly on the ground. This comes from our CEO, Radha Basu, a lot. We are obsessed with our customers, absolutely obsessed. We're also obsessed with our people, right? So one foot is firmly planted on client obsession. The other foot is firmly planted on our people obsession. And, because we are also a social impact company, we're creating jobs for under-resourced communities. I think having that why, that sense of purpose, that what you're doing is bigger than yourself, goes a long way. And so, those are a few principles that I live by every day, this kind of combination of, problem solving for both your clients and for your employees, right? Having an active service, being of active service for them, and doing it in like a maniacal way. I think just those pieces default you into a really strong position. Then we can get into all kinds of subsectors of that, Maurice, when it comes to, why is it different leadership qualities for different things, specifically on hiring, specifically on retention, specifically on, each of these pieces. But I feel like if you're starting from those as your value points, you're in a strong position. And I know it sounds basic, but sometimes
It makes
is.
perfect sense. Jeff, you've got a diverse global team there at iMerit. How do you go about approaching that?
By not sleeping as much as I should. We have, I don't know, I have teammates in, I don't know, almost every country. Definitely every continent. It's a lot of time zones that I cover. So mornings are busy for me, and then nights are busy for me. So, I do not have, if we want to talk about my weaknesses, Maurice, boundaries is probably one of my weaknesses, right? Work life versus home life is probably a weakness, right? I just have life. And so part of it is I'm working with India most nights. I'm working with Europe most mornings. When you and I hop on a call, it's normally pretty early because you're based in the UK and I'm based in the US, right? And then, when I'm talking to a lot of my counterparts in Asia and whatnot, most of that's going to be night, so I have calls that don't even start for another 12 or 13 hours from this time that you and I are on a call right now doing this podcast, and I've already been on 3 calls today. So, it's my day is stretched. That doesn't mean that I don't, again, make it to my kids' sports games and do other things. But part of that is time zones. You have to juggle them and you have to be ready for that. Now, when I go back to my problem solving mindset, that is international. So again, if you're trying to start of service, you're trying to start of what's the problem the person I'm on the call with has, how do I direct myself to that? That pretty much speaks in every language, in every culture. There are times where I'm probably a little too American for my European counterparts, and there's times where I'm probably you know, have to be careful about, cultural things that are said when I'm talking to, a team in, Media Brews, India versus somewhere else, right? Because, you have a lot of a heavy Muslim population and things like that. So, there's a lot of things I have to kind of be right for culturally. But again, if you're of service, if you're trying to lean as a problem solver, if you're trying to inspire and you're leading from those places, you're in a good spot to start with. And so from there, I think you can adjust to others.
Jeff,
So that's where I
let's move
start.
on into innovation and trends in AI data solutions. What do you think the current trends are in AI data that excite you the most?
Yeah, I think we're really going into this shift. So, computer vision's an area we've been tackling here at iMerit for, basically going on 10 years. Then the kind of LLM space really kind of jumped up and became big. Everyone's using ChatGPT now or some sort of LLM type of system. And so, the Magnificent Seven, they're all creating some sort of LLM. These models are getting huge. But then now you're going to really start moving into customized LLMs. So these RAG models are going to start being created, which is really the specialty data sets that are going to augment basically these current models that are out there. So I think what you're going to see is that a lot of expertise is going to be pushed into this space right now. You're going to have a lot of data sets that are created by mathematicians, by philosophers, by lawyers, by radiologists, by surgeons, by all kinds of different expertises. That's going to be really big for the next couple of years because that's going to really start strengthening these models when it comes to their ability to do a lot more than create a song or a poem, but really answer sophisticated questions. And then each one has to be kind of audited for where they're at. Imagine if you're using, I'm going to use real estate because that's something people can probably get their heads around pretty quick. There's different real estate laws in every state, for instance, in the United States. I'm sure every country, as we start getting into, global areas. And so each one of those models, if you're doing a real estate, some sort of real estate law, LLM, chatbot or something like that, would have to be different for Rhode Island or for, California than for, New York or for, somewhere in Texas or something. So each one of those is going to have a specialty data set so that it's not answering a question based on a different state. It has to be specific to your state with your state's laws. So that's a whole big chunk. Another thing is multimodal became really big. Multimodal basically just means that you're taking call it a computer vision model, and then you're strapping on an LLM or a audio model or something to it. So you're starting to strap these models together. It becomes multimodal. Now it's really about omnimodal. So they're being trained from the beginning to have all of those different inputs into the model from day one. So that's also another big area is kind of this like multimodal going into really omnimodal. I think is also an interesting trend that will continue right now. If I had
Jeff, what about moving it on to strategic hiring and talent management? How important is strategic hiring in achieving iMerit's goals?
You know the answer to that one, Maurice, yourself, right? So it's you're only as good as your team. I've been told by a couple people I've worked for over the years. They say, Jeff, you really fight for your team. We need you to be fighting for the company. And I say, well, the team is the company. The people are the company. So I agree. Yeah, I fight for the people of the company a lot. And that comes back to the people are the company. So if the people are the company, then how important is strategic hiring? It's the most important. That's why the retention rates are so important. In a time where no one gets gold watches anymore for staying at a company for 50 years, if you can keep your retention rate at above 90%, for a global company, you're doing some things right. And what people have to understand is it's not just that you're retaining the talent, it's that your talent's getting smarter about your business every day. They're getting smarter about their company's business, like the customers' businesses that they support. And so if you're moving through that talent all the time, then you're losing, all of this insight and expertise and whatnot that you've created. That's very, very, very costly for the company, but it's also costly for your ability to serve, your ability to solve those problems for your customers. So yeah, no, I think hiring the right people is incredibly important, but then getting them to stay is incredibly important. So when I interview people, Maurice, generally by the time they're meeting me, I figure they've got pretty good skill sets. Like I don't need to ask them to tell me a time that were in a situation where they had to show that they were smart, or like how many marbles can fit in the overhead compartment on your air, on your flight. Like these types of questions, I don't think I need to ask too many of those. What I need to really find out is what their problem is. Really dig into, why are you looking for a job right now? Why are you in the market for a job right now? What are you looking for? What's that gets you pumped up, gets you out of bed in the morning, and gets you to want to seize the day? And then if I can connect what we're doing to that, and that is something that's going to get them to jump out of bed in the morning and seize the day, I'm giving them the role that they're actually looking for, the odds of success, super high. If I'm just interviewing people for what I need, but not for what they need, yeah, lots of people can do what I need. But if I'm not connecting what I need to what they need, then the odds of success are very low.
I'd agree with that. Jeff, what about qualities that you look for in leadership candidates? I know obviously as a search guy, I mean, this is kind of my bag as well, and clients will say, we want somebody who can lead by example, or we want somebody who's a really strong communicator, or they need emotional intelligence, they need to be flexible, all those sorts of things. But just what qualities do you look for in leadership candidates for your team?
I mean, there are certain things that I'm looking for in every hire that I have. How that separates from, if it's an individual contributor versus a leader, or someone who's managing a bigger team, obviously those things will start to adjust. You've heard me say some of this before. I mean, like I really look deeply at people's work ethic first. Do you work extremely hard? I just don't think there's a replacement for work ethic. I don't believe that there's a way to be successful without doing the work needed. And I don't care what profession you're looking at. Each profession, when you meet somebody who's an expert in what they do, Taylor Swift right now. Taylor Swift, she works incredibly hard. She doesn't just show up to the arena, walk out there and like crush. Like she works incredibly hard. There's no free lunches. There's no just showing up and doing well. And so, work ethic is still always going to be probably like the first thing I'm really looking for. Is this person want to do the work? The second thing I look for is how do they add to the company culture every day? How do they treat the people around them? Do they pick people up? Do they help people? Do people like working with you? If you work really hard and people really like being around you, the odds that you get to measurable results, which is the third one, is extremely high. If you don't, the odds of getting to the third one are pretty low. And once in a while, you meet somebody who like just comes right in and they hit measurable results, but they don't work that hard and they're not that great to be around. But I'll tell you, Maurice, everybody misses eventually. Everybody. And once you miss, you're gone, right? If the second you miss, and we can go into any sport, an athlete or someone who's like done really well young, but they got arrogant and they kind of, practice, I'm not showing up for practice, I'm not doing this type of stuff, and they were gone. They had early, their careers were early, were ended very early. And then you have those people who you've seen over the years who may not have been like the flashiest or greatest, but they grind and everyone loves being around them. And they play for 15 years, they play forever because they keep teams together and stuff. I want to hire those people. Those are the people that I build my teams around. Now, if you have an expertise in something that you bring to the table, I want that too. So if you have those three things and then you have an expertise that fits as a puzzle piece into the puzzle that I'm creating, I can teach you the rest of what we do. I can't teach you work ethic. I can't teach you to be great to be around, right? I can't teach you the expertise necessarily that you're bringing to the table, but I can teach you like how to do AI versus, how that transitions from somebody who, I've hired people who were professors, PhDs in linguistics who had never worked for a company before, who are now leaders in our company, Stanford trained surgeons who were, working literally in surgical wards, who are now full-time employees here. Like, I can help someone make the shift, but I can't teach someone to work hard, be great to be around, want to hit measurable results, and bring some sort of skill set to the table that's kind of unique. So those are the things I'm looking for generally out of the gate for all hires. Then, whether it's a leader for this or a leader for that, then I'll start to kind of tweak it.
No, that's a great answer. I've had 20, 25 years in executive search. I'd agree with that completely. I think without those basics right, you don't get to first base. Look, what about partnering? It kind of leads us into our relationship. So how has partnering with me and Rare Executives helped iMerit to build your leadership team?
So a couple things. I'm not an expert in sourcing candidates. So, I have a network. I have a very strong network. I can bring a strong network to the table. But even someone like myself with a strong network wants to go outside of that database, right? Wants to go outside of those who I know and make sure I bring in a diverse cast to really interview. And so, I'm looking at, we've had a couple roles. One role that we filled, you hit the nail as square as it can go. We brought someone on who works hard, great to be around, proven track record of measurable results, and she came in and hit the ground running, sprinting, and that's very, very rare to get that. You were able to go through sourced candidates from all the places that I asked for very quickly, and put together this list. Then I have another role that, I'm going through right now where I think the first set of candidates we had all looked very, very similar. Like literally looked very similar, all the same age group, all the same background, all the same kind of everything. And then I was like, look, I really need to stretch out more than this. I want to make sure we understand kind of these other areas. And I look for, Maurice, two types of hires. Sometimes I want to hire what I call an American Idol, a Kelly Clarkson of the world, who, kind of has all the skills and like raw talent, but has never been given kind of the stage or the platform to be successful. Or I want to hire what I call the Celine Dion's. Maybe I should start calling them the Taylor Swifts, because I mentioned Taylor Swift earlier. But like someone who's just a rock star who is going to sell out every night, whether they're in the same venue or they're on the road. It doesn't matter. People will travel to them. They're so great. I'm generally hiring those bookends. What I don't hire much of is the middle. And so you were able to bring me both sides of those bookends. So on one of these roles that we're getting close to closing right now, I literally have someone who is an up and comer, has a specialty. I mentioned specialties earlier. This person specifically was a nurse, so understands the medical background very well, but also has been doing sales, very inquisitive, very smart, but still early on in their career, they haven't been given that platform to crush it in sales yet. They've only worked, one or two sales jobs, neither in a role that just like took off yet. And then the other person has been also a nurse background, but has been crushing it in sales for years. So, both have that expertise, both show that work ethic and everything, both have shown, measurable results. But one is just kind of a little bit rawer still. And then the other one's, is already like kind of fine tuned. And so it gives me the chance to look at both sides. And that's a priceless view to be able to look at things through.
Jeff, that's a great summary in terms of strategic hiring and talent management at iMerit. I mean, last segment really, the future of AI and data solutions, if you like. So what do you see as the biggest opportunities and challenges in the AI data industry?
So let's start with the challenges. I think that what Darwin said has been ringing through my ears of late, where it's not the strongest that survive, it's not the smartest that survive, it's the most adaptable that will survive. I mentioned earlier that this isn't a time where we're getting gold watches because we've been in companies for 50 years. In fact, people are changing companies on average. You know better than me, but I think it's like less than every 2 years or something like that now. I think what's going to happen is industries are going to start changing even faster. And so, one of the things I look at is let's take it like Excel. You're going to have to figure out if you're a programmer for something like an Excel. Do you write the software? Are you a coder? Are you the programmer? Are you the person who actually creates the AI system or tool that we're going to be using? Maurice, I'm sure you know somebody who is an amazing Excel user who's written all kinds of micros and macros, and they go back through Excel and they can pull data from 15 sheets over and pull that data into a cell and somewhere else, and they're just like power users of Excel. Someone that you've worked with in finance, or someone who's helped you out over the years, where you're able to just go, wow, they use Excel in ways that I never knew was available. They have an Excel for dummies book that's this big. They're clearly not dummies. They're like the best users in the world. And then you have someone probably more like me who looks at it right away and goes, oh, cell W27's off. The business so well that when everything's been put together, you can look at it and go, yeah, something's not right there. Each person's going to have to start thinking, where am I going to attack this from? Am I going to be a programmer? Am I going to be someone who's coding, building, writing these tools? Am I going to be a power user of AI? Am I going to be someone who understands how to use the LLMs, how to do prompt engineering, how to ask the right questions, how to use these as tools in my toolbox, like a contractor has a hammer for this and a saw for this and another specialty saw for that, and they use a nail gun for this, but they use a precision tool for this other thing. Are you going to be that person, or are you going to be someone who understands how to grow their business based on how people have brought this information in front of them? Each one of those three, though, has to be incredibly adaptable. And, I believe that people are going to just be moving, again, jobs. They're going to be moving industries faster because AI is going to keep changing the game much more rapidly than people are used to. So people have gotten used to changing jobs more frequently, right? But they normally stay within the same sector, or at least within the same job title. I think those things are going to move faster now. And so you're going to have to start thinking about being adaptive, being flexible, understanding how to leverage your skill sets into that. And I think you're going to need to think about what makes people human, right? Our conversation we're having right now, Maurice, makes us human. How do we continue to leverage the areas that make us the most successful as humans more and more? Because that's going to be the hardest part to automate. As far as areas of opportunity, the sky's the limit. I mean, the medical industry is getting so much better very, very fast now, because the data-driven decisions that can be made, the different types of scenario testing and stuff we can do now, it's incredible. And cures will be found. We are finding tumors in patients way earlier than ever before. The imaging, medical device imaging groups are getting insanely good now. I mean, and it's just going to keep going further and further and further. With that creates fear and concern about jobs and, where are things going to go. And all of that's, I think very, very, very true, things to really look at. Mm-hmm. But I think more problems will be solved the information, the knowledge we have is going to be incredible. But I do think some of those expertises that we're used to thinking as being really high paid, skilled things, like a real estate attorney I mentioned earlier, I am worried that some of those expertises or specialists, those are going to come down a bit, because I don't know that once these models are fully trained, you're going to be able to ask like pretty specific questions about real estate law. And, I don't know that you'll need a real estate attorney for it very often anymore. And so, trial law, very different, actually, medical surgery, very different, but asking like, what, based on these symptoms, do I have a cold or a flu? Like, it's going to be able to tell you a lot more of that stuff very fast. And so I think that's going to be great, again, for people at large, but it will hurt different specialist groups over time. And people will have to be flexible and figure out how to move into something else, or how to leverage their skills differently than they did before.
No, I'd agree with all of that. I mean, internally here, as specialist AI recruiters, we were just talking about the various sectors and industries that are impacted, and, from general AI into sort of human collaboration, healthcare you touched on, but also things like, responsible AI, ethical AI, education, how it's going to change that world for students. Autonomous systems is the one we all talk about, but things like business and finance, cybersecurity, the environment, sustainability, quantum computing, the arts, everything is going to be impacted there for absolutely sure. Now, with that backdrop, Jeff, of those opportunities and challenges, how's iMerit then preparing for the future of AI?
Well, I mean, we have a team of about 5,000 people that are full-time employees to iMerit. We have a social impact mission. So we're trying to create very long-term sustainable jobs and continue to move up kind of that training and skilling for our team to be able to do more and more. We're also bringing on a lot of expertise into our team. And so as we're bringing that expertise into the team, I'll take smart agriculture as an example. We have agronomists that are working on our team, right, who are also training our team on how to understand different, diseases that are happening in the plants, or different plant types or whatnot that you need to really know for certain types of farming areas, and so we'll bring on special agronomists, bring them onto our staff, and they, say 5 agronomists come on, they'll pick up a team of say 50 non-agronomists to be able to start doing that work with them, right? We have, again, Stanford trained surgeons and radiologists and, all of these things. They'll come on, they'll train our team members on how to do very specific types of annotation or types of validation or verification projects, right? And so they'll up-level our team to do something very specific for a client, right? And so, we need to continue to bring those expertises in. It's like a pyramid. It's going to keep moving to the top. And, people are like, oh, but once the AI challenges are solved, then what happens? And it's like, they'll continue. There's so far we can go before they're solved. It used to be like, is that a dog or a cat? We're way beyond dogs and cats now, Maurice. And then, you start getting into species of dogs versus cats. That's very different than, just a dog or a cat. So like, each of these things gets trained into, layers and layers and layers and layers of complexity down. And as AI goes more into production, there's just going to be that much more data that has to be processed, has to be verified, has to be validated. So, the human in the loop process of that data coming into your model, the human in the loop process of that data going into production, both should have a human in the loop component. And then, we have a ton of automation in our platform, lots of tools, lots of automation, lots of things going on into, way beyond the human in the loop piece for our clients. And so, as this gets more and more into production, you need more and more technology to support these things. So at iMerit, we're investing in both sides. We're investing in the technology side and we're investing in the people side, because both go hand in hand. It's not one versus the other. You need both. And so to solve these complex challenges, you really need to have the best technology plus the best expertise.
Listen, Jeff, you've covered a lot there. A really interesting discussion. We talked about, your own journey and your leadership skills. We've talked about innovation and trends in AI. We've talked about strategic hiring and talent management. And lastly, we talked about the future of AI and data. Just in terms of you know, last question, do you have any final thoughts or advice for our listeners?
I'm just going to go back to two main points that I think I've probably hit over the head pretty hard in this call. One, be in the problem-solving business. The problem-solving business will always be here. There will always be problems to be solved. So be in the problem-solving business and be adaptable. Be flexible. If you can be adaptable and flexible, you can solve more problems. And if you kind of tackle the world from those two places, I think, again, the odds of success, if you work hard and you're great to be around and you're solving people's problems in a flexible way, I think the future is bright.
Jeff, I'd agree with you. You know, I'm in recruitment, and obviously, you know, every school lesson that I go to, you know, every dinner that I have with parents talking about, you know, jobs for their kids, et cetera, et cetera. And I keep saying to them, look, you know, things are changing real fast. I don't think anybody's going to have a job for life anymore. I think the skills are changing so rapidly. You know, half the jobs our kids are going to end up doing, they don't even exist yet. But just be on point, you know, try and look at those trends, right, and make sure that you have something to bring to the party. So I'd agree with you there. Jeff, last thing. How can our audience learn more about iMerit and connect with you?
Yeah, I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. Just, type in Jeff Mills and iMerit, and I will pop right up. My email direct is jeff@imerit.net. Our URL is imerit.net. So easy to find us. And then, Maurice, I want to thank you for your partnership. And Mel and the whole team over there have been fabulous to work with. And you guys have been a great partner for us. And I'm excited for you to continue to help us solve our problems and tackle the challenges that I throw your way, all the time. So, we do appreciate you.
Hey, listen, Jeff, thanks very much for joining me on the podcast. You know, it's been great. Really appreciate your business. You know, it was great partnering with you guys, and long may it last. So look, for everybody else out there, you know, basically, thanks very much for watching our podcast. If you liked it, you want to see the next one, please subscribe or leave a review or follow Rare Executives on LinkedIn. So until the next time, from Jeff and myself, be nice to each other. Thanks, Peace. Jeff. Jeff, that was